Right, right, guys. Welcome to our first ever podcast. I'm with my boy from Day, Kiran. Kiran, how are you, my
Yeah,
bro?
I'm good, bro. How you doing?
All good, man. So, what we saying, like, first podcast. So, shall we start off with the
Yeah,
season
man.
review? I'm
Let's
gonna
do
let you
that, man.
start first, obviously. Arsenal. How's the season gone for you then?
Well, to be honest, at the start of the season, we started with Unai Emery, and I had high hopes of finishing in the top four. We should have really finished in the top four the previous year, but
Mm.
we fell apart in the last 6 weeks, conceding sloppy goals, late goals. The Palace game at home,
Yeah, I remember that. I think you were
really
2-0
like,
up, weren't you? Was it 2-0?
yeah, and
You were
we
2-0
just
up,
sort
and
of
then, yeah.
Zaha just ran at Mustafi, and from there it just all went to bits, man. I thought this season, we were no weaker than last year. We lost Ramsey, but we brought in
I think you had a good window though, like compared to obviously United and obviously Chelsea. I thought you had a really
in
good window to be honest.
paper. We looked like we had a good window, but I think in hindsight, having learned as well that
Mm.
Unai Emery wanted three players, and the three that he wanted were not the three that he got. He
Okay,
wanted
I didn't
Thomas
know that.
Partey. He wanted Thomas Partey instead of Ceballos. He
Mm.
wanted Maguire instead of Luis, and he wanted
Maguire, really?
Zaha.
Arsenal wanted Maguire.
Yeah, Unai Emery wanted Maguire, but the board said that it was too much of an outlay. Plus, as well, Leicester, I think, were really not too keen on the instalment payment plan
Yeah, yeah.
business, where United paid a heavy
Hmm.
sum up front.
Yeah, yeah.
And they didn't sanction the Zaha transfer because they felt that it was too much money to pay for a player in that age bracket, which was odd to me. Emery wanted Zaha over Pepe because
I
Zaha
was just about to ask you that. I
was
mean,
already a settled player in the league. He knows, he's been in the UK for pretty much his entire life. He knows the league.
so sorry, Kieran, to interrupt you. Why were Arsenal
Yeah,
so hesitant to pay the fee for Zaha and pay 72 million for someone that's unproven in the Premier League? Do you know why?
well, I don't know why they chose Pepe, but I do know why they didn't choose Zaha, and that was entirely down to the board because Unai Emery wanted Zaha, and they cited his age. They said that they don't want to spend that money for a player of his age,
Mm.
and they saw Pepe as more of a long-term investment.
Okay.
I think age difference between them is only like 3 years, four max.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much of a difference in terms of age, is there?
I mean, um, I'll move forward, but just quickly, I think looking at it, I wouldn't have paid the money that they were asking for Zaha either. It would have been a decent
Fair enough. Fair enough.
improvement
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
on what we had, but I think they were asking for a lot. You know,
But I think the Pepe signing is more in installments, isn't it?
it is, and I think
Okay,
Palace
so
were
obviously
also.
that's what Arsenal, I'm guessing, were looking for rather than paying obviously 70 million upfront kind of thing.
To be honest, I don't think they were really ever fully invested in that move. I think they knew they wanted a wide player,
Mm.
and they saw, okay, he's potentially available. We'll try, but if we don't get him, it's not a disaster because he's not
Yeah. So
really.
you had like an alternative anyway. If you
Yeah. So we had on paper, it looked like a decent window. We brought in a player who lit it up in France the year before,
yeah.
Louis. He was the one I was not too keen on because I'm always of the opinion when you take players from other top teams, you always question why is that top team so willing to let
Yeah.
this
I mean, it's
guy.
like that. Sorry, it's a bit off topic, but it's like that with Willian as well. I mean, obviously you guys are signing Willian now.
I,
He's a good
I
player,
think
don't get me wrong.
are a little bit different because Willian wasn't deemed surplus to the requirements. Chelsea wanted him to stay, but they wanted him to sign a 2-year deal. And I
wanted
don't know why
a-
he's saying he wanted a 3-year deal.
Mm.
So they
No, but
couldn't come to
the last
agreement.
couple of months, he's been really good for Chelsea. He was really good for Chelsea, wasn't he? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he put up good numbers this year
he did.
compared to
Considering,
Pulisic. Even
considering
compared
like
to
he
Pulisic,
wasn't playing that often, like he
yeah,
did
he put up good numbers,
he
man.
turned up in the big games for them, man. So I mean,
You
it's a
know
good
what?
signing for Arsenal. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's a good backup to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you look at what we have and you look at the way the market is, you know,
Yeah.
Arsenal are going to be able to compete for a player like Sancho. So, you know, I think it's all right. It's not great business, but it makes sense. And as well, there are players at the club like Reece Nelson, for example, who showed a lot of promise at Hoffenheim, but then he came back to Arsenal and he didn't really have
Maybe
like a
it's
more
just the
senior.
pressure for him. I don't know. Maybe it's just
Yeah, as well. You know, it's hard for any player, but especially
no,
for a
man.
young
Reese is a
player.
good player, man. I like Reese. Reese is a good player, man.
You know, so we started the season with a lot of hope.
To be honest,
You know,
when you guys played Spurs at home and you were 2-0 down and you came back,
yeah,
that's when I thought, yes, Arsenal are serious. Like watching
yeah.
that game, coming back from the dead, I honestly thought, yeah, man, like these man, like they're
Yeah, that
serious.
should have been at least to drive us forward for
Yeah, I
this
mean, I
season.
thought it was going to be anyway, but then I don't know, it just
But
went downhill for Unai, and then
everything from the beginning just seemed off.
but he
You know,
didn't help
even
himself either, though.
he didn't help himself. But you know what? I would say that the players in the end looked like they just stopped playing for him. He was stubborn and he throws out Özil. You know what? Mikhail has done the same thing, I'll tell her. So I'm not going to be hypocritical and say that Arteta is right and Emery was wrong when they've both done the same thing. What I would say, though, is that when your team are struggling to attack, which is, a lot of people focused this season on Arsenal's defensive mishaps. But if you look at the amount of goals we scored, we didn't even score 70 league goals. So that shows you the problems aren't just at the back, but going forward as well. Arsenal, they don't have a player like Bruno Fernandes. They don't have explosive players like Martial or Rashford. And they don't have someone who can dictate the play with the link-ups and get 10, 15 goals like Pogba. So all those things are missing from the attack.
Yeah, I mean,
So
obviously it's going to take time to address those issues. I guess it's not all going to happen in one window, isn't it?
It's not, but they kind of set themselves up by allowing the goal-scoring midfielder Ramsey to leave.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And
with
then they didn't replace. They replaced him with a young player with potential, Ceballos. I would not rate his season as highly as some of the other Arsenal fans.
I mean, obviously since lockdown, he's been very impressive, to be honest. But obviously, it's not enough.
Well, you know what? I'm not really impressed by stats because I always believe sometimes stats are.
You're not told the full story.
No, they don't. Sometimes you have to just use your eyes and watch the game. And what I see a lot of Ceballos is, it's a lot of
I mean,
backwards
he's that
passing.
typical Spanish player, isn't it? Keep possession.
Yeah, but you look at David Silva, you look at Santi Cazorla,
they're a level above, man.
Mata, all players, Fabregas, their passing is incisive. It slices teams apart. And I won't say that Ceballos has brought that to us because we've struggled to make chances. 98% of Aubameyang's goals have been in the 6-yard box. And that's not a knock on him because without his goals, Arsenal would have been relegated. But what I'm saying is, they're not making chances. They get onto people like Lacazette, but he's a player. He needs it also given to him.
You need to feed him. You need to feed him, of course. I agree.
Yeah, that's it. So I mean, all in all, I would say it was a bad season. Even though we won the FA Cup, which was, it's really special for fun to win that because we have a special affinity with the cup. It was a bad season, you know. We
Just
started
quickly
off
moving
badly.
on. What do you make of Arteta? What's your opinion?
Um, I like some of his ideas. I'm not gonna blindly jump in and say, you know what, yeah, I think Mikel is the he's the savior of the club.
It's a bit too
I
early
would
to
say,
say that, isn't it?
yeah, I'd say a lot will depend on, first and foremost, you know, I said when he got the job, you need to give him 4 years to fix this.
Yeah, definitely.
I said 4 years, and I said the same for Solskjaer. 4 years, because there's a lot of dead wood, and you know, when you're working on a budget like what Arsenal are working on at the moment, you're not going to be able to prepare it in one or even two windows.
Yeah.
You know, a lot doesn't happen in January, so that's straight away. That's 2 seasons, 2 full seasons. Because remember, he didn't have a full season last year. A lot will depend on what sort of investment is made. You know, because he's shown already some promise.
Yeah, definitely.
Particularly on the defensive side of us, that's been lacking for years. Even under
Yeah,
Arsenal.
you're so hard to beat. You're well organized.
Yeah.
Obviously,
We kept the 2 highest scoring teams in the UK, City and Liverpool.
yeah, you kept them at bay, man. I agree with that.
Yeah, we really kept them out, and
I think the
we've
City game
really,
was the most impressive thing for me, to be honest. Like
yeah.
watching that as a neutral.
Is that I don't want to see us playing like that going forward. It was very, as a fan of, you know, I'm a purist. I
Yeah.
do enjoy shut a team out that is like
Well,
far
no,
superior
it's a
to.
tactical thing, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure
It is.
he's not going to implement that style going forward. Like that's more of like a Diego Simeone tactic, where you know, well organized, hard to
It's going
beat,
to
on
depend
a counter.
on, because if the investment isn't there to improve going forward, the attack, you're going to have to play like that
Yeah,
because
that's what I'm saying.
you.
I think he's just making the best use of what he's got at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm impressed so far with what he's done up to this point. I'd like to see what he can do now, though, with, you know, players. Let me be clear. When I say investment, Arsenal are not going to get to the level of teams. Forget Liverpool and City because they're miles ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
But United and Chelsea are the next 2 that I think Arsenal should be looking, right, we need to be able to compete with them.
Yeah. Oh, just lost you a
Players,
second there.
come season, you never know, they might be able to spark a challenge. I'm not saying they'll be able to win it, but they might be able to really, you know, show what they're capable of. Because they were showing it, you know, after the lockdown, there probably wasn't a better team than
Yeah.
United. In order to compete with teams like that, free transfers and loans are not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
Of course not.
And, you know, you've seen over the last, United have really been putting this team together now for quite a few years. It's not really been overnight. You know, they
Obviously,
signed.
it started off with, obviously, I say Mourinho probably started that off by, you know, really bringing in Bailly, Pogba, and
Yeah, I think,
the
you
others.
know.
I think that was the start of it, but it wasn't. No, sorry, Van Gaal was actually the start of it, to be honest, because
Yeah, I think the Van Gaal project, it was kind of cut
it was a hit
short
and miss,
because.
to be honest, because the first season he was obviously so obsessed with having big name players like your Di Marias and your
Yeah,
Falcaos, and then I think he realised that this isn't the way forward, and then he went back to his Ajax roots, where he was
yeah.
bringing in a lot of academy players.
I don't think it was a bad philosophy. Because I think because United didn't sign overhyped players, they signed good players.
Yeah.
They signed Memphis, who's gone on to be a good player at Lyon, and he was a good player before that. They signed Di Maria, who was the man of the match in the 2014 Champions League final.
Yeah.
And they got Falcao on loan, who before his knee injury was the best striker in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So they signed good players. And Luke Shaw was one of the best young left backs in Europe at Southampton. Yeah. And even before he broke his leg under Van Gaal, he was looking like he was going to be a serious problem at left back.
Yeah.
So I think United were quite unlucky with those players, you know. Sometimes they just don't work out. Look at Diego Forlan. Diego Forlan went to United, didn't quite happen for him. Went to Atletico Madrid and became like one of the best players in their history.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, man.
So investment is key, man. Looking forward, got on to the next season. I feel again the ambition for the club should be to. I've always said, you know, a club like Arsenal should be in the at least minimum Europa League final. So to have not reached that is disappointing. But given the way the season has gone, I'll write it off and say, all right, cool. We should. And against in 2 years ago when we reached the semis against Atletico, you know, they're a superior team. They'll beat most teams in the Premier League. Probably
you should
with.
have seen that game out better, though.
Yeah, you know, it goes back to a lot of people criticize Arsene in his later years for being very rigid.
Yes, I don't know how you can criticize him. Full stop.
He wasn't really willing to adjust his philosophy at all. But I'll always have love for Arsene. You know, Arsene. You know what Arsene did.
You know, when we were going to school together, Kiran. I mean,
yeah.
Like that Arsenal back then were just, I don't know what to say, man. Like, I always respect Arsenal, man.
That's the enjoy. Even now, it goes to show they still talk about the Arsenal and United rivalry, and we're like 15, 16 years past that now. It just goes to show one impact.
It was a true rivalry, wasn't it? It was just more about passion and the football inside rather than money and, you know, banter and all this stuff. Like, you would never see the United and Arsenal players back then shaking hands and hugging inside the tunnel. I mean,
no,
that's a prominent thing now. And obviously sometimes, I mean, I understand, obviously international teammates and whatever, but sometimes I get angry with that stuff.
I think it really does take away from the intensity.
Yeah, I mean, look back then. Like, I'm sure we both had players that played with each other at international level, but when it came to that game, it was just right. I want the 3 points for my team, and then after the game, you have a handshake, you hug, whatever. But before the game, it was like you saw it with Keane Vieira, man. Like, I'm sure they had respect for each other on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, they have a great respect for each other, but you know, it was necessary, I think, for both of them as well. I
mean, that's what kept both teams where they were.
Yeah.
You know, that determination, that drive to be the best. Obviously, right now it's different, but back then it was unheard of to see Vieira and Keane just shaking hands in a tunnel. I mean, you never see that, man.
I mean, yeah. So going forward, I think next season the minimum requirement should be top 4. But I don't think that if we don't get it, then people should start saying, "Oh, I'll take it out," because, like I said, it's the investment. If the investment's not there,
if they back him, then obviously you can have the resources to do things, isn't it?
Looking at the state of the team now, you know, looking at the defense, the midfield, and the forward line, I would say he needs at least
one in each.
I'd say he needs at least. I think he needs another centre back. We need Partey.
Yeah.
We also need a creative midfielder. So there's rumours of
3 players. Would you say?
I'd say 4.
At the moment, like with this current climate, with the coronavirus and the pandemic, 3 more realistic, or would you still say 4?
I'd still say 4 because, you know,
I think Coutinho's more of a loan deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a certainty that Ceballos is going to rejoin on loan. You know, Madrid.
I mean, do you know one thing about Ceballos that I didn't like is he keeps on talking about Real Madrid when he's at Arsenal.
Yeah, he's a you can tell he's not invested in the
project,
in the Arsenal long-term project, which is why another thing that kind of switched me off of him from early, you know.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stupid move.
It's like an audition for him.
Yeah, no, I don't like. That's one thing I find disrespectful. I mean, you're playing at such a big club. They've given you the opportunity to come to the Premier League, gain that valuable experience, and you want to talk about Real Madrid, where, let's face it, you're not going to get into the first team, let alone the bench.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see. I'm interested to see what Real actually do with him, because
I don't think he's going to go back there to play. I think they might either send him back out on loan or sell him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, because...
they need midfielders. I mean, you never know with Madrid. Like, that's the funny thing about Madrid as a club, because, like, they sent Odegaard out on loan. They sent Kubo out on loan, 2 brilliant young players. Obviously, Ceballos. I mean, I think Kubo's gone back out on loan. I'm not sure what's happening with Odegaard. And obviously, you got Ceballos, which doesn't make any sense, to be honest. I mean, are they going to keep him? Or are they going to get rid of him? And there's that Chelsea one as well, Reguilon.
You look at the team; they got an aging midfield anyway, so you need to rejuvenate it. And maybe the plan will be to just stick him in. I think their Champions League exit to City, it was telling, because they were absolutely dominated in that second game.
Yeah, to be honest, they were. I think the first game was quite close, to be honest. I thought City handled that quite well.
It was a big shock for me to see a Real Madrid team just get bossed like that.
To be honest, Kiran, they missed Sergio Ramos.
Yeah, they did.
The presence and the experience of Sergio Ramos, they missed.
I think the politics around Bale is really... It's a shadow over the team as well.
Because it is because he's a top player, man.
It's ridiculous as well, because if you take him out of Real Madrid's history,
they have nothing.
You could argue they would have not won
2 Champions Leagues, I think. The one against Liverpool and the first one against Atletico.
4. He's won 4.
I'm saying, but obviously 2 of them he had like a huge contribution in 2 of them.
Well, he scored in. I think he
scored against Atletico in Lisbon, and then he scored 2 against Liverpool.
Yeah.
So I think I'd say it's probably those 2 games.
Put in the Copa del Rey final, 2015. All of this stuff that Bale has done for Madrid, and I think it's so ridiculous that the way they treated him. But it's not my player, not my problem.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you rate the season out of 10 then?
Oh, out of 10, I would say, had we lost the FA Cup final, I would have probably rated it a 5.
Yeah, that's a fair.
I'll rate it as a 6.
I was going to say that as well, 6.
I'll rate it as a 6. It can't be any higher. There was some bright spots under Arteta, but still, as I think you saw, as you could see, like we in a week we beat Liverpool,
City,
beat Manchester City, and then lost that. And that's just
summed up Arsenal, to be honest.
That's typical of Arsenal, So I think going forward, if we can eradicate that kind of nonsense, we can go back into the top. It's going to be tough, though. Chelsea have improved.
Everyone's going to strengthen, even teams like Wolves, Everton.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be easy, man. But I expect Arsenal to, obviously. Now, hopefully you sort out Aubameyang's contract. Get that
I mean, it's fine. So, when he does, that's going to be a great moment for us. I would go as far as to say his contract renewal is probably the most important one.
Probably since Van Persie, isn't it?
I would say certainly in my lifetime, because when Van Persie didn't renew and he decided to leave, at least we were still able to remain competitive.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Not.
You didn't fall off completely.
Yeah, if Aubameyang was to leave Arsenal, I genuinely think Arsenal would struggle to be in the top 10. Plus, as well, you look at the market, Arsenal would probably not be able to afford the 60 million they paid for him now.
Yeah, for another player.
Another Aubameyang type striker. So you're then looking at a front line of Martinelli, who's talented but he's young. Eddie Nketiah, who He's good, but he seems a bit small to me.
Yeah, he's not he hasn't got the physique of a Premier League striker.
And then Lacazette, and it's 50-50 if he turns up.
Yeah.
It's very important that Aubameyang signs the deal. So 6 out of 10, I would say, for the season. It wasn't great.
Okay, interesting.
What do you think about the United season?
Well, there's a lot to cover here. Obviously, I'd say we had a half decent summer in terms of signing. In terms of signs, obviously we're overpaid for Harry Maguire. I don't think he's an £80 million player, but he has made a difference. Let's say I'd say he's a good centre back. Like, he's not world class. I feel he has made a difference.
Happy?
Sorry?
Were you happy with your business?
I feel like we could have got. I think we should have got Bruno Fernandes in the summer. I think that would have been obviously you've seen the impact he's had since he's coming from. Obviously, he's coming in January.
Yeah,
I would have liked us to sign Bruno Fernandes back then. I mean, I don't know what the issue was, because we were linked with Dybala as well, and I knew that one looked like it was happening, but he wanted to obviously come for the money. So obviously Oli decided, that's not the kind of player we need.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about this Dan James signing. I mean, he seems like a decent player, decent lad, but I don't think he expected to play as many games as he did. And with Wan-Bissaka, I mean, to be honest, 50 million's not that bad. He's still got a lot to work on, like in terms of attacking side, but as a one-on-one defender, I feel like he's probably one of the best in the league as a one-on-one defender. In terms of how we started our season, I mean, we beat Chelsea 4-0 on the first day, and I was at the game, and I think we were quite lucky, to be honest, that day, because they hit the post, they hit the woodwork twice.
Yeah, I remember.
I mean, Abraham and I think it was Emerson. We won that game 4-0, and it was a promising start, but then obviously we fell off between, I think it was November time, we were like 14th in the league, and it was our worst ever start to the season. So obviously from there, honestly, at the time, I thought, you know what, Oli was going to get sacked. But they stuck with him, and to be fair, I mean, as a man manager, I feel like he's done a brilliant job in terms of managing the players that he's got. Going back on the summer, I thought Pogba was going to leave as well. I mean, everyone did. But I'm glad that he's obviously stayed.
I felt so as well, especially the final day of the previous season when there was the video of him getting abused by his own fans.
Yeah, I mean, let's not go there.
When that happens, I mean, it's a credit to Pogba that he stayed.
He's a strong character. He's a very strong character. Yeah. He's a strong lad. I mean, mentally, physically, he's been through a lot in his life. Like in terms of, growing up, growing up in poverty. Obviously, I like most, African descent footballers. I mean, he lost his dad like 2 years ago. So, I mean, he's done a lot. Like, he's been through a lot. And to come out of that and say, you know what, I'm going to stick my chest out and continue playing for this football club. I mean, I've never doubted his attitude or his professionalism, to be honest. I mean, I know off the pitch he's a good influence in the dressing room.
But yeah, he's popular.
Yeah, he's quite popular. I think it's just the fact that his agent doesn't help. Mino Raiola, I mean, we all know what he's like as an agent.
All agents, they're a nightmare, because you will have a player that's settled. He's not even thinking about moving. Yeah, and he'll get in his ear.
I don't think Pogba actually wanted to move. I mean, obviously he did come out in the summer and said, I want a new challenge. But maybe that was like a comment towards the board of Man United saying, listen, like, I want a new challenge in the sense that you need to sign some players that are going to be on my wavelength. Like, yeah. I mean, Raiola even came out a few times. I mean, you can take this with a pinch of salt. I mean, most United fans did. But he came out a few times and said Pogba wants to stay at United and win trophies. But it's difficult because they need to support him. And I think that's where I think Oli's done a good job by putting his arm around his shoulder and saying, you know what, like, this is the best place for you to be. And obviously he's missed a lot of the injury, the season through injury, sorry. And it was good to have him back. Obviously, I feel like Rashford had a good spell during the season where Martial was out injured and he was scoring a lot of goals for us. I feel like he's really stepped up this year, but he's still got a lot to learn. I still don't think I'd say Martial is obviously a level above Rashford in the sense that he's got a footballing IQ and like he just knows when to play the right pass, when to dribble. I feel like with Rashford, it's more when he's not got a lot of time to think about things, he's a lot better. Whereas Martial is just like off the cuff, like he just.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people are gonna think that I'm an idiot for saying this, but the early years of Martial and the early years of Mbappe were very similar.
I know what you mean.
They were very similar.
Yeah, burst onto the scene.
Yeah. And even when Martial first came to United, he was scoring every game, you know, under
Van Gaal, yeah.
But then, you know, the change of manager, sometimes it can help, it can really boost the player, but then sometimes it can go the opposite way.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of players have alluded to it without explicitly saying it, that Jose Mourinho's style of management and his tactics, you know, I think Rashford has said it, you know, it was hard.
I feel like, to be honest, Kiran, I feel like when Mourinho came in, it kind of slowed down Rashford and Martial's progress by 2 years, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not saying they would have been Mbappe level. Obviously, Mbappe is like in a league of his own. But I mean, imagine we stuck with Van Gaal for another 2.5, 3 years. Would we have seen two different players? In like, would we have seen what we're seeing now back then?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Jose hasn't got a reputation. I don't know why he you know was so passionately defending his record with young players when he arrived at Spurs, because he doesn't have one. You know, he has no record of bringing through young players, and all he's ever done is hinder them. And Rashford has been a victim of that. You can see it. You know, how do you go from being like the hottest teenager in British football to then, you know, just a couple of years later being on the periphery? It's obviously something to do with what's going on at his club.
I think with Jose, he obviously had his favourites. Obviously, the most obvious one was probably Lukaku, because he defended Lukaku so much. Like, even if Lukaku had a bad game, he'd start him the next game. And I think that's sort of created disharmony in the dressing room.
Yeah, possibly. I think
I'm not blaming it on Lukaku, by the way, because a lot of obviously any United fans that are watching this are Jose in, and like Lukaku, they'll probably think I'm blaming Lukaku. I'm not blaming Lukaku. I mean, Lukaku is a good striker. I'm not saying he's bad or anything, but I think when Oli came in, he had a clear way of playing, and Lukaku just didn't fit that. I mean, he did score a few goals under Oli, like, you know, the 2 against PSG. He scored a couple against Palace, so he scored some goals for us. But I just think Oli basically just didn't feel as if he was the type of striker that Oli wanted.
You can really see now, under Solskjaer, that he wants to play free-flowing, expansive football, and he wants to rip teams to pieces.
Yeah,
and if you want to,
dare I say this, but he wants to go back to the Fergie days. I'm not saying exactly like the Fergie days, but very similar in terms of wide players, quick on the break.
Yeah, and you know, it's in United's identity to play that kind of football. Even before Ferguson, you know, you go back to the 80s was bad for United, but you go back to the 60s and stuff, United were playing that kind of football and ripping teams to pieces, not just at home, but in Europe as well.
European teams as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's in their history. They went with 2 managers before Solskjaer that were not really Man United managers. Although I do feel, had they persisted with Van Gaal, they may have seen success eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like like the way we sacked him was quite sad, to be honest, because he won the FA Cup, and like that same day he won the FA Cup, there was talk of Mourinho taking over, and I feel like that's quite disrespectful, to be honest. Like it's like, sad. For example, if I'm not saying this would happen, but like Arteta won the FA Cup with Arsenal, if he had been sacked that same day, then it's like I done all this in vain, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it was quite sad the way it ended with Van Gaal. I mean, obviously he had his way of playing, but to be fair to him, he had a very good record against the big teams.
Yeah, he did. He's a good manager. You know,
yeah, he's got credentials, man.
He's a great manager. Yeah. Looking forward to next season, what are you expecting or what are you hoping for?
To be honest, like going back on the previous season, I mean, obviously up until December, we had a mixed season. Like we went up, it was all up and down, to be honest. I mean, we had a few good results, we had a few bad results, and then in the Europa League and the EFL Cup, Ollie introduced obviously Mason Greenwood, who I watched him a lot for the academy and the reserves, and like this kid is, I mean, I don't want to put any pressure on him, but he's a special player. I mean, he's going to be a special player for us. Yeah, and then in January, obviously, the 1st of January, we played Arsenal and we lost 2-0. That one kind of hurt as well because everything was pointing towards a United win. And I think Arteta done a very good job that day. I mean, you outplayed us, hands down. So I'm not going to complain about that. I mean,
us considering that just a couple of days earlier, against Chelsea, we played Chelsea, and we were really the better team for a lot of the game.
Did you lose that day?
We lost, yeah.
Was that at home?
When
Abraham scored in the last minute, wasn't it? Abraham scored in the last minute. Yeah.
We bounced back. It was a great win for us, but I think it was also, but both teams were in transition at the same time.
Yeah, and we had all that circus around Pogba as well. I remember, like, because he played the previous week against Newcastle. I think it was on Boxing Day, and then all of a sudden he was still carrying an injury, and it was all just, is Pogba going to be in the squad? Is Pogba going to play? And
that was a bit odd. I think at that time, maybe
there was. I think he wanted out at the time, like.
There was a possibility that he could have left.
He was looking to get away. I would be lying if I said he wasn't. And then obviously, and then I think after the Arsenal game, a couple of weeks later, we signed Bruno Fernandes. And I mean, I didn't expect him to have the impact that he's had. But wow, man, I don't know what to say, man. Like, he's 25 years old. He's a leader. I wouldn't say he single-handedly dragged the team to 3rd place. I'd say he's changed the mentality in the dressing room. He sort of like lifted everyone around him.
I think it just goes to show how important it is that you have players of a certain quality playing together. And, when Raiola, the agent for Pogba, said that he needed Pogba to play with players that are on his level, everyone took that as Raiola saying that Pogba's possibly going to go and play for like Real Madrid or something. But United did really well in holding on to him.
This is what I'm saying. Like, I didn't necessarily think he meant as if, like, I'm gonna take him to Real Madrid or I'm gonna take him to Juventus. I mean, I think he meant it in the sense that, listen, Ed Woodward, the board, you need to start signing some players because he's a United boy. He played through the academy. He's a United boy, and he wants to win trophies at United. So you need to start, buying or bringing in players that are going to like get on well with him. And I think that's happened with Bruno Fernandes. I mean, that was the most interesting thing about, I think the lockdown came at the right time as well for United.
Yes, it did. Yeah. And also,
obviously we had some good results prior to lockdown. We beat City. Obviously we've beaten City 3 times out of 4 this season.
Yeah.
So yeah, and yeah, the lockdown came at the right time. We got our players back. We got Rashford back. We got Pogba back, and then obviously after lockdown, like I predicted after lockdown that United weren't going to lose a game in the league. That is, and I think my prediction was right. It's just I think we only lost one in our last 24 or something.
Yeah.
If you count obviously yesterday, and obviously we lost to Chelsea in the semi-final, which I thought was, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean that. Like going on to that, I mean, I feel like we need to strengthen in so many areas as well. Like we need strength in depth. But obviously, going into next season, the main one for me is Jadon Sancho. I think we've got to go all out and just get the guy, man, because we have a free run at him as well. And I mean, if we don't get him now and we try to go back in for him next summer, who knows? I mean, Liverpool might be in for him, Real Madrid, PSG, all the top clubs around Europe might be sniffing around him. So I feel like I know 120 million euros, which is around 109 million pounds, is a lot of money. But I mean, if United are serious, they need to pay the money.
United are proof that if you spend money on quality, proven quality, then you're not guaranteed to have success, but it's going to greatly enhance your chances. Look at
I don't say this about a lot of players, but he's Ballon d'Or potential with the ability that he has. Like, I'm not saying he's gonna win the Ballon d'Or, but he can. I mean, only he knows how good he can be.
I think it's very important that he's allowed to just, if he does come back to England, just to play. Because too often players...
I mean, at Dortmund, obviously, yeah, like they're a good, exciting young team. Don't get me wrong, but it's like you're like, with all due respect, you're not going to win the Bundesliga in the next 5 years. I mean, Bayern have just bought Leroy Sané, and Bayern have just look like they're going to win everything every year. So do you really stay there and play and finish second every year, or do you come to United? Well, I'm not saying United are going to win the Premier League, but you still win a trophy of some sort. You're still going to be winning trophies.
If he comes, this is what Arsene was saying. I can't remember who I think he was talking about Fabregas before Fabregas went to Spain. And he was saying that if you're competitive, you come to the Premier League because it's the hardest league to win. And I think Sancho, if he really is about winning trophies, he will come to England because it's not a guarantee that United will win the league. But if he's in the team, their chances are greatly enhanced.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to refer to. I mean, he's going to be playing around. No disrespect to Dortmund. I mean, they've got really good players, but the prospect of obviously playing with Pogba, Bruno, Martial, Greenwood, like Rashford. I mean, that if you look at Sancho, Greenwood, and Rashford, who knows? Maybe in 3 years that could potentially be a forward line for England. It has the potential to be. I'm not going to obviously dismiss Harry Kane because obviously he's our captain, but there's a possibility those three could be starting for England at a major tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think Harry Kane is an unbelievable striker, but his injury record now is really bad.
Like he's been picking up a lot of injuries, hasn't he, Kiran?
He's had a lot of serious injuries, like where it's kept him on the shelf for months at a time.
I hope he doesn't do an Owen though.
It's like, well, I think if he carries on playing and doesn't get one that completely finishes him off, he will break the goal score. Yeah.
Sheer running. Yeah, I mean, obviously moving back to United, to be honest, we've been great, but I think teams around us have dropped a lot of points. And I think, like, obviously Leicester were like 14 points ahead back in January, I think it was. Leicester were quite ahead of us. And I just feel like everyone's been inconsistent. Like, I mean, obviously United were unbeaten, but we drew games against like Southampton and West Ham. And I still think it's papering over the cracks because obviously Ollie's used one team throughout that whole period. We played some great football and then we ran out of steam eventually. And I think when there was 2 games that he changed the team, obviously three games, I think it was the FA Cup game against Norwich where we just scraped over the line.
Yeah.
Obviously, the semi-final against Chelsea. And then last week when we played the second leg against that Linz. And that really, that made me open my eyes in the sense that, you know, obviously we need more than just Jadon Sancho. We definitely need more than just Jadon Sancho if we want to challenge the two. I think we're a million miles away, like you said. But I think to comfortably get third, we need at least 3-4 players to get third, like comfortably finish third. But if you want to challenge Liverpool and City, I think we need way more than that.
Do you think if Sancho comes in that he could possibly stunt Greenwood's growth?
There's two arguments about that. Obviously, yes, because, you know, like, I mean, Mason scored 17, 18 goals this season. And for an 18-year-old to come into the Man United first team and score that many goals is unheard of. I mean, I think he's got the same amount of goals as Rooney did when he came to United. So obviously he's going to be a top player, I've got no doubt. But I feel like with Sancho coming in, it's like, I'd say this for an example. I mean, if Rashford has a bad game, you take him out, you put Sancho in, and then Greenwood keeps his position. If Martial has a bad game, you put Rashford there, you put Sancho on the left, keep Greenwood. I just want to see some rotation between that forward line. I feel like they've played an awful lot of games together. They're going to burn out of energy. Obviously, they're humans. And I think bringing in Sancho, it's not, a lot of people think, yeah, we're going to bring Sancho in, he's going to play on the right-hand side, and that's going to solve all our problems. It is and it isn't, but people need to understand that Sancho can play anywhere off the front. And it's just like a reminder to players. Like, I mean, with Martial, since Igalo's come in, I feel like Martial sort of stepped up his game in the sense that, like, if I play bad, he's going to take my position. And I'm not saying Igalo's like a top like striker. He's a good striker. He's an experienced striker. He can come in and score goals. He's a goal scorer. And I think that's sort of lifted Martial in the sense that if I play badly or if I don't perform, then the manager's not going to hesitate to drop me and he's going to put him in. And I feel like Rashford needs that competition. Greenwood, James, it's just, to be honest, it's just for healthy competition, to be honest, Kiran. So I feel like, it can sort of hamper his progression. I understand what you're saying, but Greenwood's never been a right winger. He's always been a centre forward. And what I'd like to see next season, if we do bring Jadon Sancho in, I'd like to see Ollie use Mason Greenwood as a centre forward. Because obviously now he's bulked up, you know, he's put a bit of muscle on. For a young man, I mean, he's looking quite promising. And I'd like to see him play his natural position.
Yeah, I think United have a good... it's a quite exciting forward line because they're all the type of player that I would love to see at Arsenal. They're all quick. They can all dribble and they can all shoot. You know, when I say shoot, I don't mean from 6 yards. I mean they could shoot from the edge of the area and score.
Yeah, like create something out of nothing.
Yeah. I think as well, another thing that will definitely be driving Martial is that the forward line for France, besides Mbappe, it's not...
Yeah, you know what? I was just going to come on to that. I mean,
because even...
I don't know how Martial missed out, like, even in the World Cup. I'm not sure how he missed out. Obviously, they won the World Cup, but...
I don't think at that time he deserved to be in the team, to be honest.
No, but then like, they took Giroud.
Yeah, but I think Giroud has outperformed Martial over the last 5 seasons, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you could say that.
And even this season, even though Martial has scored
23,
the most goals he's ever scored, Giroud has played less games than him and has still got quite a competitive return.
Yeah.
I think Giroud is an important striker to take because he's a different option to what...
Like they can play off him.
Yeah, what anyone else can offer. It would be really exciting to see Mbappe and Martial play together.
I feel like that left side is up there for the taking for Martial for France.
Yeah, I mean, you look at...
Because I know how they play. They'll probably play Mbappe as a right winger. They'll probably play Griezmann as sort of a false nine. And then you've got the midfielders, the three midfielders behind. Obviously, Pogba, Kante being two. And then the third one, I mean, obviously Matuidi's getting on a bit. So who else do they put there? Tolisso maybe, or
could be Tolisso, could be Fekir, could be.
I mean, they've got an abundance of talent. Anyway, yeah. So yeah,
I think the left for France is if I was Martial, I'll be licking my lips because I mean Thomas Lemar is completely out of the picture.
And Kingsley Coman as well. He's been getting injured quite a lot.
Coleman is injured. He can't even stay fit for half a season. So
but they tend to use him a lot for France.
They do it. You know, I think one thing about the France team is it's not always picked on
ability,
merit. Yeah, it's you know, and that's been a symptom of France's selection for as long as I've been watching football. They always have their set players that they like to pick. Same with Germany, to be honest. No matter how you're playing, they're going to pick you. And the only way to really guarantee that those particular players are not going to get picked is if they retire. So who would you say, besides Fernandes, who's obviously been excellent since he came in, who would you say was the player of the season for United? That most important player, that if he wasn't in the team, United would have not got back into the Champions League.
To be honest, you might disagree with me. I'd say Martial. Because since lockdown, he's scored most of our goals for us. He scored some very important goals for us. Like, obviously, he got his first hat trick against Sheffield. He scored in that Southampton game that we drew. He created the chance for Greenwood against West Ham when we obviously got a 1-1 draw out of that. He scored against City home and away. He scored against Chelsea home and away. He scored some very, very big goals for us this year. And it's not just his goal scoring that I'm looking at. I'm looking at his overall play. I mean, I don't know if you watched the game last night, but apart from scoring, I thought he was our best player on the night.
Yeah.
Van Persie alluded to that as well, saying, he didn't score, but every time he got the ball, you feel like something's going to happen. And I just feel like he looks a lot more hungrier and like he just wants it.
Does.
He just wants
it. He looks like
he looks like, I'm not like, don't get me wrong, I love Thierry Henry. Like he's my one of my favorite players ever. But he has that, I'd say he has that look of Thierry in him now. Where when he wants to pick the ball up, he just wants to run at you. He just wants to get a shot off, or he just wants to dribble past a couple of players. And like, long may it continue, man, because like, I feel like when he was injured for 2 months, I feel like United struggled quite a lot. Like, I'd put it this way. Martial can play without Rashford. Rashford cannot play without Martial.
Yeah, I agree.
It's proven, to be honest. Yeah, and it's proven, like, tell you everything. And Martial scored 17 Premier League goals, and none of them have been penalties. So, like, I'm not saying penalties don't count. Obviously, they count. But, that's quite impressive, to be honest.
But that's a sign of a proper, someone who's serious about scoring goals,
Yeah, and I feel like that goes back to Oli. I feel like that comes from Oli as well. So I've got to give him credit for that. Like, he's done a really good job with the likes of Greenwood, Rashford, Martial. Like, he's told them, listen, guys, it's not always about scoring, beating 3-4 players and sticking it in the top corner or scoring a 35-yarder. Sometimes you've got to score the scruffy goals. The little tap-ins inside the 6-yard box. And I think we've seen that from each of those three. They've all scored different type of goals. They're all different type of strikers. I mean, Greenwood is the most natural one because he's both-footed. Martial's more intricate, explosive, and Rashford's more flary. So I feel like we've got a good combination there. And if you add someone like Jadon Sancho to that, I feel like that's probably, obviously apart from PSG and maybe Bayern Munich and probably Liverpool, that's probably one of the best front fours in Europe. if you add Jadon Sancho to it. I mean, obviously the potential's there, but it's whether they can play together as well.
I think we've kind of seen that they can play together. Well, not Sancho, but the three of Greenwood, Rashford, and Martial. I think they had their spells. You know, first of all, I would agree with you that Martial was the player of the season for United. However, I would also give an honourable mention to Maguire, even though he's
yeah. You know what? I agree because I've given him a lot of stick. Obviously, you know, as fans, when you get frustrated, you end up saying this player's shit and this player's shit. Like we have that. You know, me and you, we always have that banter about certain players. And,
he's cocked up.
But you've got to look at the bigger picture. And United, I think we have the second best defensive record in Europe, if I'm right. And like we've conceded 20 less goals than we did last season.
Yeah, I'm not a big statistics man, as I said, but if you look at the clean sheets that United have kept this season compared to last year without him, it does show that.
He wins every header in the air. He's commanding from obviously set pieces and corners.
Yeah.
And I mean, he does get an honourable mention. I totally agree with you. I mean, out of all of Ollie's signings, I'd say probably Bruno and Maguire have been the best ones. Like, obviously, Wan-Bissaka's been on and off. Dan James, I don't know what to make of him. I mean, obviously, it's hard coming from the Championship and coming to Man United, but I mean, there's a player there, but I don't think he's good enough to start week in, week out. Like, that's just my honest opinion.
I think a lot would. We'll see a lot next season in terms of. You'll get your answer. Is he going to be United quality, or is he Championship quality?
Yeah, I guess so. But then that all depends on who United bring in this window.
Well, Champions League football, as well. United are going to have a lot of games next season. They're going to be in 4 competitions, so
yeah,
you can't really expect to win a trophy and have players playing 60 odd games, not wingers. So he's going to be in the games, be it from the bench or be it as a starter. And when he's in, that's his time to prove his worth.
I mean, he's got like obviously he's got ability. Don't get me wrong. Like if I would love to, back 10, 15 years ago when we were in school, we probably had the pace that he had anyway, Kiran. Do you know what I mean? We probably had the same. We probably had the pace back then, but that pace is frightening, man. And if he learns how to use that in the right areas, he can be some player, man. I just feel like he plays with his head down too much. Like he gets into some very good positions, but I don't know, man. I like Dan James, man. I don't know, man. I like him as a lad. Like he looks like a good lad, but it's more than just being a good lad. Like you're playing for Man United, man. Like either buckle up or I feel like maybe a loan move after next season might do him wonders. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe we can give him another season and really assess whether he's improved or not. Because at the moment, I can't tell whether he's improved or he's gone worse. Really hard to predict, to be honest. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we just about scraped 3rd place. We've been to 3 semi-finals of cup competitions this year. So it's the EFL Cup. We lost over 2 legs to Man City. We lost to Chelsea in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. And obviously we've got the Europa League semi-final coming up this Sunday where we find out who we're going to play when Wolves and Seville play tonight. I feel like it's been a decent season for us. I mean, we've turned it round since the lockdown. I'd give it a 7, to be honest. I'd give it a 7.
That's fair. I think...
I mean, if we win the Europa League, then, yeah, I'd give it a high 7, but I wouldn't give it I wouldn't give it an 8. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
I think United have had a it's difficult to assess really because they had an awful start. Like,
yeah, I mean, like I said, Kiran,
yeah,
like
the
I
worst
know
start,
we'll probably
and
have
they
some
still
United fans
managed
commenting
to
on this
turn it
video.
around.
We'll probably have some we'll probably have some United fans commenting on this video saying, oh, you're deluded, etc., whatever. But we got lucky. People forget that. We didn't, like, obviously we were wonderful from lockdown till end of the season, but like we just about finished third on goal difference. I mean, Chelsea and United finished level on points. People forget that.
Yeah. One thing I would say though is you can only deal with your matches, and if you win your matches, and
I do give Oli some credit. Like, I do give him credit for the way he's turned it around. I'm not saying like Oli out or whatever. I mean, obviously he's a club legend, and I respect everything he's done for the club as a player and what he's doing as a manager. But the real test now is the Champions League. Obviously, when he came in after Mourinho got sacked, that night against PSG, like, let's not fool ourselves. We got lucky that night. We got lucky.
You think so?
Yeah, I think we got lucky, man, because look, VAR and VAR and both of Lukaku's goals were mistakes. Did United create any other chance in that game? That you can, I mean, I've watched that game quite a bit, and I don't remember a clear-cut chance that we had in that game. There was PSG were peppering us. I mean, Mbappe was through on goal in the second half, and he slipped. Di Maria hit the post. You know, things like that. Like, obviously, it was meant for us, and don't get me wrong, I was buzzing that we did it. We done the unthinkable. But then, when we played Barcelona, like, we got shown up. We got shown up completely.
Yeah, but
I mean, the first leg, like, I was at the first leg when we played Barcelona. Like, I felt Barcelona, that's the poorest I've seen Barcelona play in, like, years.
Yeah.
But then the second leg, literally, I think one mistake from De Gea, and that was it. The game was done. And I feel like that's where that's where I'm really going to judge Oli, is when it comes down to the nitty-gritty in the Champions League against the top teams. Let me see what you got tactically.
Do you think?
I think that's when you can judge him. At the moment, he's done a good job. First full season, he's done a decent enough job. Get the players he wants in the summer window. Well, in this window now, which is open to October, get him Jadon Sancho, whoever. I don't think United are going to sign anyone else if we sign Jadon Sancho. That's just my opinion. I don't see us signing Jack Grealish. I don't see us signing anyone else, which is a shame, to be honest, because we're going to spend the whole window on one player. I mean, I don't know, I might be wrong. We might end up getting Jadon Sancho for a cut price, or we might end up paying 120 million euros. Like, who knows? But at the same time, let's see what happens anyway. But like I said, I think that's where Oli will really earn his money, is can he do it against the big boys? Can he cope playing, I don't know, just say in the group stages we get like a Borussia Dortmund or a Bayern Munich. Can he cope by playing those teams on a Tuesday, Wednesday night? And then on a Saturday or a Sunday, you play a Tottenham Hotspur or a Wolves or a Chelsea. Can he switch it up tactically against those teams? I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not disrespecting the Europa League, but it's not the same level as the Champions League.
No, it's not. I mean, to be honest with you, before United played Lask, I never knew who that was. I never heard of him before. And I consider myself,
you know, but
a football fan. I don't know Lask.
Sporting Lisbon in the group stages and PSV. So they beat Sporting, I believe, and they got a point against PSV in the group stages. And that's when Bruno Fernandes was a Sporting Lisbon player. So, but obviously, United proved what kind of team they were when we played them in the first leg and beat them 5-0. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, that's where I think Oli will earn his money, is can he, like, obviously, United at the moment, I feel like we only have one way of playing, which is obviously the counter attack.
Yeah.
But against deep blocks, you saw last night against Copenhagen, we're still struggling that little bit. And I think we still need to find a way to play against these kind of teams. I don't know what you think.
But would you say that United have the team to really go and impose themselves on team. Oh no, say for example, next season in the last 16, you drew a Bayern Munich or a Barcelona or even a Man City.
To be honest, I think, going back on what I said about, obviously, tactically, I mean, he's beaten City 3 times this season, so he must have some sort of tactics. Do you know what I mean? He's done 3 over City this year. He's done 3 over Chelsea. But obviously, like I said, bro, like, for me, this year, Bayern Munich are the favourites to win it. And I would, like, this is why I'm scared for next season in the Champions League. This is why I think we need, like, a Jadon Sancho, and we need reinforcements, because Bayern Munich are a serious team. And see, I don't know, man. I don't know if Oli can tactically get it right against a team like Bayern Munich. I think playing Barcelona might be easier than playing Bayern Munich. And I don't mean easy as in, oh yeah, United are just going to turn up and beat him over 2 legs. But I feel he can tactically prepare well against Barcelona, knowing that Barcelona play a certain style of football. But with Bayern Munich, you don't know what kind of Bayern Munich's going to turn up. That's the thing. Because they beat Chelsea 3-0 in the first leg. And everyone thought, yeah, Bayern are just going to probably play their kids and whatever. But they didn't. They still came out and gave Chelsea the same treatment. Was it 7-1 in the end?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's Bayern Munich for you, man. Like, you don't exactly know what kind of Bayern Munich's going to turn up. And I just feel like, at the moment, currently, they are the best team in Europe. Like, that's just my opinion. I feel like Bayern Munich are the best team in Europe at the moment, man.
It's difficult to gauge because they dominate their league regardless of however they perform in Europe. This season's Champions League will be the perfect way to measure if they are the best. I think it's a shame. Well, not a shame, because I was happy that happened, but you always want the top teams in Europe to be there at the end of the competition. Yeah. And I'm a bit disappointed, as, I'm now a neutral. I don't have any preference for any team to win it, that Liverpool are not in it, because they are one of the best teams in Europe.
Yeah.
And, so, but, they couldn't get it done on the night against Atletico.
They got tactically outclassed, man. They got tactically outclassed.
They got done over. So, but I would have liked to have seen them in these later stages.
It would have been interesting, but I feel like this could possibly be Atletico's year.
I'm not so sure. I think.
Who are they playing again?
Who have they got?
Wait, hold on. Let me check. Who have they got? 1 second. 1 second. Let me have a look. Are they playing tonight? No games today. Oh, they're playing RB Leipzig.
That's going to be difficult because Leipzig are going to want to come onto them, and already what Atletico are going to do. Nothing.
Atletico doesn't really. I mean, see, like, whenever I say these things, I always get proven wrong, but I don't think Atletico are going to actually go out and attack them and try and match them toe-to-toe, because they'll probably get slapped up.
No.
They'll probably play the same conservative style of football.
Yeah, Atletico, even when they're chasing a goal, they don't. You never see like a 1-2 or something. They're just going to lump it and see what sticks, and then I don't want to. That sounds crude. When I say they're just going to lump, they are a top team.
They are, man.
But they're just not the kind of team that I would want to be.
Watch.
No.
And you don't want your team playing that kind of football. I know how it feels with flipping Jose, man.
No, man, I don't.
Can't even get you on off.
But they are a top team, but actually, I think they had their chances to win it. The two years that they played Real in the finals, both years
I think the second one, they were a bit unlucky, you know? Because remember, Griezmann missed the penalty in extra time. Do you remember that?
But when he didn't for a long time in the first final, the 2014 final.
Nah, man, but that second one, they were so unlucky, man. Because they went to penalties.
Yeah.
And that was a shit final, man.
Yeah, the first one, I remember
That one was a good final. I thought they done well to hold a 1-0 lead till like the last minute. Obviously, Ramos had other ideas, didn't he?
It ended 4-1.
Yeah, I think it wasn't a 4-1 game though.
No, it wasn't. But they just got tired, and Real, they just went up in a gear.
Yeah. So going back to what you were asking me in regards to, United matching, I think we're quite far away I mean, I'd be happy if we got to the round of 16 next year in the Champions League. I'd say round of 16, win the FA Cup, and finish top 4. I think I'd say, well, not top 4, but I'd say probably third again, and push the team that's second close. I think that will be considered a good season. I don't think we're ready yet to win the league or even challenge. Like, that's just my honest opinion. But I mean, a lot can change in football. Maybe Liverpool will have a bad season. Maybe City could have a bad season.
Yeah, I think
it's a funny Premier League.
Everyone thinks that Liverpool are going to be like rampant again, but I have a different opinion, and I think their lack of spending power is going to affect them, especially because City, it was a
City are my favourites to win it. I'm just going to put that out.
Yeah, mine too.
Because they're still, they bought 2 players.
Yeah, and they said they want to buy
another 5.
Yeah. That just goes to show what their intentions are.
And plus, the window's open till October, so God knows who they're going to sign, man. I mean, I can't even predict who they're going to sign. Like, it's just
I don't know.
So much money.
Yeah.
I think they definitely need to replace, well, not replace, but they need to sign someone that can take over Aguero's place.
I agree. Yeah, I agree, definitely.
That's important. I think along with Ake, they need a world-class centre-back. Like a proper world-class centre-back. I don't know.
Well, there's that they're looking at Koulibaly, but what's strange to me...
See him the other day against Barcelona.
Yeah.
That should knock down his price by another 30-40 million, man. But I think City will buy him regardless.
What's odd to me is that Ake is left-footed, and so is Laporte.
Yeah.
I have 2 left-footed centre-backs. It's very awkward.
No, but they're getting rid of... I think John Stones is due to leave. I don't know what's happening with Otamendi. I think they'll probably keep Otamendi around because Guardiola's clearly a fan of his. They're getting rid of Garcia. Yeah. I think Barcelona want to buy Garcia. I mean, he looks a good player, Garcia. I mean...
Yeah, I think when it comes to defense...
they need a left back. They definitely need a left back. Benjamin.
Yeah, I think Mendy...
Going forward, he's all right. Going forward, he's all right, but I don't know defensively, man.
No. He's not there defensively.
Going forward, he's probably one of the best in the league after Robertson, like, going forward.
Nor is Zinchenko there either, to be honest.
Yeah, they definitely need a left back, and I think they need a defensive midfielder as well, man. But I like Rodri, don't get me wrong, but I think they need like a Casemiro type, like a younger Fernandinho, let's say.
Yeah, they do. Fernandinho, so underrated for the job that he did.
He is definitely. I agree with you.
And as soon as he's not in that position anymore, you see they just aren't the same.
It's like, for example, I don't rate Jordan Henderson as a footballer, but when he got injured for Liverpool, you saw what they were missing there.
Yeah,
that leadership sometimes. That can help, man. And that's like with City, for example, when Fernandinho's not playing, or when he's not playing in his position, when he's playing at centre-back, they miss that influential figure in the defensive midfield position. Because I don't think Rodri is as athletic as Fernandinho. He's more of that Busquets mode, if you know what I mean. He's more...
Yeah, but that type of footballer it's not going to work in the Premier League. When in Spain, there's
The
only
pace of the football is not as quick as the Premier League, isn't it?
no, and there's only really I'd say maybe 3 or 4 teams who have the capability of exposing that type of player. In England, you got 6 or 7 teams.
Even Wolves, man, Wolves, Everton, all these teams can expose you, man.
Yeah, they will come and they will pull your midfield apart, man. Another thing as well, a lot of people haven't spoke about it, but Sane has been a big loss for them. When he was injured.
Yeah.
And then
I think he's a generational talent. I do. I really think he's a generational talent.
I'm just so shocked that
they were so fancy him, to be honest, and I really can't understand why.
I don't get it, because if you take Sane away, City don't get to 100 points for sure, and they don't.
Got a good player in Ferran Torres though.
He ain't a Sane though.
No, he's not a Sane, but he looks one hell of a player, man. But I think if I was City, I'd go to Chelsea, and I'd say, how much you taking for N'Golo Kante?
Yeah, it seems like Lampard's not really got Kante in his mind for next season, and
I don't.
That's crazy.
Lampard's done a decent job, but the way he's getting all this media attention, as if he's in the nominee for manager of the season.
Yeah, that's a disgrace. That is absolutely a disgrace, man.
He's done a good job, Kiran. Don't get me wrong. I don't support Chelsea. He's done a decent job. Get them in the top 4, getting them into a final, or whatever he's done. But the one thing I don't really understand is the amount of times he's changed that back 4. He hasn't had a settled back 4. And earlier on in the season, he was doing what Sarri did ultimately by playing Kante as an attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
Jorginho as the holding midfield player, and that doesn't make any sense. I mean, Kante, when he was at Leicester, when he was at Chelsea, that first season at Chelsea, he was probably the best defensive midfield player in the world.
Yeah, he was. It doesn't make any sense. And then a player of that quality.
He won the World Cup with France in that position. And then Sarri came in and just used him as an attacking midfielder. I mean, what was all that about?
Yeah, I don't get it either. But 100% I believe that Kante is still in the top 3 holding midfield players in the world. And if they let him go, whoever he goes to, they're getting an incredible player.
All right, let's wrap this up now. So, what more do you want to discuss then? Anything else?
I think we should talk about which side we think is going to have a better season next season, Arsenal or United.
I hate these predictions, you know. If you look at both teams on paper, I'd say United. But then again, it's not one on paper. So, depends. I mean, obviously, if United somehow manage to get this Jadon Sancho deal done, then I think we'll have a better season. Apart from that, it'll possibly be balanced.
I think United have the potential to have a better season, but you know, we've seen teams, lesser teams than United, finish off a season like how United have finished off their season. Well, their season's not even finished yet, but you know, go on a crazy run where they're just slicing teams to death. You know, I remember Newcastle under Alan Pardew. You know, everyone was thinking, shit, the next season they're going to be playing Champions League the way they're going on. And then they just, they petered out. I'm not saying United are going to peter out, but
with United, it's just how we start the season is the most important thing, not how we end it. Because,
I agree.
I mean, there was this pattern under Ferguson as well, where we would start the season so bad, and then at December time is where we really come alive, and then we'll just go unbeaten for a couple of months and then win the title. And obviously things have changed now. You can't afford to have a poor start, because you're just going to fall behind. And I think that's the most important thing for United now, is get a strong start. You know, I don't know, 6-7 wins in a row, 7-8 wins in a row. You never know where you can be come Christmas time. I think that's the most important thing.
I think City and Liverpool have really shown in the last few years.
Kiran, it's not about how you finish the season now. It's about
it's how you start. Because if you start slow, immediately, you're looking down the barrel. Arsenal started off poorly, and then within like the first 3 months of the season, already the top four was looking like it was going to be a myth.
Yeah.
So you really need that strong start so that you can build on it,
I think now, the thing is now, we're in this predicament where potentially, well, I'm not saying we're going to make it, but we could get to the Europa League final. I mean, I don't know what you think. Obviously, we play either Wolves or Seville. It'll be a tough game, but I think we can do it. And then in the final, we'll probably play Inter as well, and that's going to be a tough game. But then that will mean we start our season 2 weeks later. I think 1 or 2 weeks later than everyone else. So that that can work for us or against us. It can work for us in the sense that the players get an extra rest, or it can work against us where we could just fall behind. I mean, I think that was what I heard. I think they had this conversation when they announced the format of the Champions League and the Europa League, that obviously the teams that get further in the competition, like potentially the final, they start their season a week or 2 later. So, I mean, I don't know how that's going to work out. But, I mean, we've got to find a way, man. Like, we just got to start the season strong, get a couple of points on the board, and see how it goes from there, man.
Yeah, I think likewise for Arsenal. We've got to get off to a good start. There can't be none of this draws. Like, we drew more games than any other team in Europe this season.
City lost more games than us.
City lost more games. But and it's down to their start why the league was over at Christmas.
Liverpool started. I mean, they carried on from last season. To be fair, I mean the season before, obviously,
as well. Not just on the
because they won the Champions League, and it was just for them. It was just like, right, the next one, like Premier League, like it was obvious.
I think it was as well, the fact that they finished with the record number of points for a team finishing second. And then any other season, they would have been champions.
We know that, Kiran. Like, when United and Arsenal were challenging for league titles, I mean, 81 points was probably enough to win the league. I mean, I can't remember how many points Arsenal got in the Invincible season, but was it like
90?
Was it 90?
90, yeah.
I mean, there was a couple of times United got like 84s and 85s, and you would think that's enough to win a league title. But obviously nowadays, the level that Liverpool and City have obviously set, it's going to be really hard to sort of beat that, to be honest, because they're just setting new.
I think it's effective though. I don't think that's going to carry on. It makes me laugh as well when people say that now football is more competitive than when Arsenal and United were.
No.
And you got teams with 100 points, nearly like 35 wins. How the hell is that more competitive than when, Arsenal and United?
I told you what I think about football now. Like, I don't think, in terms of entertainment, Premier League is the best league in the world.
Yeah.
But in terms of football, I don't think it is. The quality of football. Because like you just referred to, like if teams are getting 35, 36 wins, how's that competitive?
Yeah.
How is that competitive?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
At Serie A, like, I'm not saying like Serie A is better than the Premier League, but like Juve won the league, right? Have you seen the table? Have you seen the Inter finished 1 point behind them? And as a neutral looking on the outside, you would think, Inter ran them close. But they didn't. They didn't, because Juve were like 7 points clear at one point of the season. It's just that since lockdown, they've been so bad. They lost like the last 3-4 games they lost. So I feel like the Serie A is more of a competitive league than I don't know, the Bundesliga or the Premier League. But I mean, even the La Liga has been pretty impressive this year as well. I mean, the way Madrid came back and, you know, won the title was quite impressive, because at one point it looked like Zidane was going to get the sack. Back in, I think it was December, like November, December time, it looked like Zidane was going to get the sack and they were going to go for Pochettino or Mourinho or someone. So I feel like the teams below Liverpool and City have got a lot of catching up to do. Chelsea look like they want to obviously close that gap, but they need more than just Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, and Hakim Ziyech.
They need some defenders, but they need
a whole new defense, man, and a goalkeeper. And with United, I mean, they're trying to throw all their eggs into this Jadon Sancho basket, which I feel is obviously dangerous. But let's see how it pans out anyway. Anyway, let's wrap this up, Kiran. It's been a pleasure talking to you, my friend.
Yeah, definitely, bro. We have to do this again, man.
Within a week, we'll have something else to talk about.
Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, all the best, man.